You booked it, episode 173. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. Do you want to take your career to the next level? As a listener of this podcast, I am offering you the opportunity to work one-on-one with me to build the foundation of what you need to create a successful career in today's world. Regardless if you're starting out or you've been doing this a while, I've got you covered. Look, when I entered this industry, I went to the #1 school in the USA for musical theater, graduated with an insane skill set, and zero clue about how to actually make my skills a career. I lost years of momentum because of it. Do not let this happen to you. That's why I created this podcast. That's why I'm making you this offer to coach with me. If you're interested, simply tap the link in the description of this episode and let's chat. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Michael Minarik. Are you ready for this, Michael?
I'm so ready.
Brilliant. Michael hails from Fairfax County, Virginia. He went to school for business, but came out of school a performer. After performing on 4 national tours and a Broadway show, he tried his hand at producing. Michael is a Tony-nominated Broadway producer of the hit show Rock of Ages, which he was also a performer in, and then was in the Broadway show Matilda. Following that, he co-founded the Institute for American Musical Theater, which is a conservatory that has been in existence for 5 years. Michael is also a recurring singer at Yankee Stadium, where he sings God Bless America and the national anthem, which he's done 7 times now. Michael was also the lead producer of the hit off-Broadway show Fat Camp. Michael, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Oh my gosh. All right. Fill in the gaps. Okay. So I was a business major in college and I went to take a musical theater performance class because I did a little bit of it in high school, but my sister told me that I was really bad at singing, but we found out later that she was tone deaf. So I was actually singing on pitch. But she was wrong the whole time. So when I took this class, a bunch of the kids in college were like, you should take voice lessons. I was like, you should take voice lessons. Because I thought they were insulting me, but they were like, no, you have a gift and maybe you should do this. So at my school, they didn't have a lot of like baritone, better tenors. So they're like, hey, we're doing carousel. Do you want to do Billy? I'm like, I don't know what that is, but that sounds good. So I just kept doing these shows and I really enjoyed it. And I stopped playing rugby and started doing musical theater. And it was a big switch for me. I was a rugby player and a volleyball player for my school and a fraternity. And then I followed this girl to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, because she wore leather pants. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. And so then I worked at Busch Gardens for a summer in the Fest House wearing lederhosen and learned how to dance. And then, my senior year, I went to this non-equity national tour audition for the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I luckily booked it. And so I left school with 20 credits left in my degree. My mom's a teacher. My dad's a lawyer. And they're like, yeah, you got one life. Just go for it. And so then I got on tour. And then from that tour, I got another tour and another tour and another tour. And I got really blessed and lucky. And then I got my real estate license because everybody says you needed a survival job in the city. So I started selling and renting apartments, which was actually really wonderfully awesome financially. But then my mom called once and said, are you there to be a real estate agent or an actor? And I was like, you're right. So I quit the real estate and I auditioned for Les Mis on Broadway. And I luckily booked that. And I was like, this is fun. And that's when I started wanting to producing. And so I did the workshop of Rock of Ages. And when I did that, I was walking in the aisle and the lead producer I said, this is going to make $1 billion. And he stopped me and he said, why? And I said, because all of the guys that I played rugby with who had to come and see me in Little Women and all these other shows they didn't like, but they were my friends. They're like, they're going to see this. It's 80s music and beer and strippers. And they would be, and he was like, do you want to help produce this show? And I was like, I would love to. And he's like, that sounds good. So I raised a bunch of money for it and I helped produce it and marketing it. And then I auditioned for the Broadway version, but none of the creative staff knew that I was producing it. So when I booked it, I can say a few of them were not the happiest because on opening night, they found out that I was a producer. And they're like, wait, so are you my boss or am I your boss? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Let's just enjoy the show. And it was, I really wanted to produce and be in the same Broadway musical. That was a big goal of mine because I really wanted to learn how to own one of the shows from my finance background. It turned out to be an interesting experience because some of the actors would talk to me about their contracts while I would be going on in a spandex bodysuit to sing Don't Stop Believin'. And I was like, I don't really have any power over that because in Broadway shows, the general partners are the ones with power. I'm just an associate producer. Where I raised money and helped with decision making on like marketing fronts and some other fronts, I didn't really have any power over the main decisions. Like, would people come and ask me about casting? Yeah, because I knew a lot of the actors in the industry, but the final decision was never mine. It's the guys that own the higher percentage points who started the show years and years ago. So right. It was an odd thing. Like, some of the cast thought I was a narc, even though like I had a Broadway show on my resume before that and some national tours before that. So it was a really interesting dichotomy of emotions being backstage with people who thought that I somehow had power over them. So while I enjoyed it, it was also interesting at other times. So, and then while I was doing that, I produced a show called Fat Camp, which was off Broadway. And we were about to move it to Broadway. We actually got a Broadway theater, but then we lost it. And because another show took it, which we'll name Nameless. And Broadway is a lot about real estate. It's not just about which show's the best, but it's about who can get their deposit in first. All of this money that I invested and raised for Fat Camp, we did an album. It was a huge hit. People loved it. It just never went anywhere because we lost our theater that one time. And once you get out of line, you kind of lose other theaters. So I was going to leave the business, but I got called by my agent saying, hey, you want to audition for Matilda? So I did, and I luckily booked that. And then in the middle of that, I met this guy, Andrew Drost, who was in Phantom of the Opera. We were on riding the train home together all the time. And he was like, I think I'm going to start a school that's taught only by people that are actually in the industry. And I was like, I think that's genius because personally, I think that a 4-year school charging $180,000 for a BFA in musical theater is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's true because of the financial ramifications of that, in the sense where I believe that tuition should be almost based on the economic viability of your major. Where all my friends who majored in finance and became in hedge funds, I understand why they're going to drop 60 grand to get their finance majors to get in some hedge funds and to into Goldman or Bank of America. But if you're trying to be an actor or a singer, the economic viability is less. And to be perfectly honest, look at the numbers from Actors Equity and from SAG, yet we're still paying the same amount of tuition. The teachers at schools, you can actually look them up. They pay the arts teachers like half what they pay the finance teachers and biology teachers, yet all the kids pay the same tuition.
Right.
And so I was like, I think this is unethical. If the schools devalue the major that much by paying the teachers less, why are the kids paying the same amount? So Andrew started the school and I came on board as a partner very shortly afterwards. And we built this school. And now we're 5 years in, we have our own 8,000 square foot space, Upper West Side, which was finished building 2 years ago. We have 100 kids. We just finished our semester fully in person, no COVID cases, masks, windows open, fans. 2 of our kids have booked Broadway shows, a Netflix pilot, 8 national tours, regional theaters, independent films, because they have access to all the people that I know. And I'm somewhat loud and obnoxious at times. And so I've met a lot of people over 20 years of this industry. And we've all grown up together, me being on one side of the table as a producer of a Broadway show and me being on the other side as an actor. So I bring in all these people as well as the other teachers do. And we teach the kids from people that are currently doing it. Like one of our teachers is Jenny DeNoia, who's a standby for Elphaba. So she'll teach the kids song interpretation during the day, and at night she'll go be Elphaba. If I had that when I was a student, I'd lose my mind. So that's where I'm at. And on that side of it and performing, I've been able to do some really wonderful things by a lot of awesome people that have given me opportunities to do some amazing stuff. I've been really lucky. So hopefully that's a little bit of a nutshell for you.
Yeah, brilliant. What a journey of a career. Very cool.
Thanks.
And yeah, amazing. And I think what you're doing with your school is absolutely incredible. You're right. I think, like you said, the economic viability of the arts is just far less. It just simply is than if you're going to go work for a hedge fund. You know, that's just fact.
Yeah, unless you become, and unless you become an actor who, like Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who hits on Modern Family, then yeah, that's awesome. Or if you are Patty Wilson, I played softball a lot with Patrick when I first started in the business, and he went on to have an amazing movie career. Or Josh Gad, like some people will make it out, or it does happen. Sadly, those are anomalies. And I've had a really wonderful career for 20 years, and I've luckily been in production contracts for 12 of those 20 years. And I've made a nice living, but taxes in the city are a lot. And even when you're on Broadway, after taxes and pension and agent fees, you still make a nice living, but to pay down $180,000 student debt, that's insane. So we figured this is a better mousetrap.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yes.
Thank you.
And let's dig into our first section here. And Michael, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh, every choice in life is based on love or fear.
So true. Love that. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I read that in a book. It was called Conversations with God. I was staying with after I got fired from this regional theater show when I played Gaston for other reasons, which are another time for stories. Anyway, but they're funny. And so I came home and I stayed in my friend's place and he had this book on his shelf and I said, Conversations with God. And I was like, this sounds interesting. I love reading about spirituality and philosophy. And so the first page is like, every choice in life is based in love or fear. And I stopped reading there for a while and just looked at how do I wear my clothes? Is it because I love them or because I'm scared that I'm going to be made fun of if they're not cool? How do I do my hair? It's because I love the way I do my hair, or it's because I'm scared of somebody's going to like not oppress me, but judge me for how I wear it. And that changed my direction of life. I'm going to take jobs because I love them, not because I fear that it might be bad if I don't. Like I did take one tour, well, I'll say nameless, out of fear because I was worried I wouldn't have any health insurance weeks that year. And it was not a great experience for me. And from that moment on, I decided every choice, as much as I can, will be based in the love of what I want to do in life instead of the fearful nature of if I don't do this, what will happen? And I teach that to my kids when they come in. I was like, notice if these choices in your performing, in your relationships, in your family, in your friendships, or even just whatever you want to do in life, is it based on fearful nature of other people infecting you with that? Or is it because you really love and want to do it? We have one life to live. And I believe that most people sadly live their lives based in fear. Dostoevsky talks about it a lot from Notes from Underground, where he says, you either live a life of lofty suffering or cheap happiness. And would you rather have an algorithm that tells you exactly how to live a nice little life with maybe some happy and some sad here? Or do you want to go for the gold and see what happens with the possibility of lofty suffering? And neither way is right or wrong. I just like to choose a lofty suffering way because I just want to choose to love myself enough to make these choices. Building a school out of nowhere, quitting school out of a finance major to go be a singer, for God's sake. Like these things have enriched my life more than anything. And so that's what I try to teach my kids is your choice based on love or fear.
Yeah, that's really great. So simple, yet so profound.
Yeah, I agree. And I did not make it up. So it's, but it's changed my life. So
beautiful.
Thanks.
And let's get into this section here. And Michael, of course, you're an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. I do believe, it is the most subjective performance art form in the world as well. I agree. The person behind the table did not go to school, usually how to cast somebody, right? There's no casting director school. It just doesn't exist. So people are making choices based on their feelings of you and how you are back there. And that's an interesting thing. So when I learned that it wasn't about the job, that's when I started working. When I would try to go in, and my friend Jason Halland, who wrote Little Women, is one of the national tours I was on. He was a great close friend of mine, and he was my first audition coach. And I had this final callback for the tour of Les Miserables Javert, and I was like 26, and I was pretending I was 40 or whatever I was trying to do. And I tried to go in there thinking that there was a math problem that I could solve going in. And then when he said, "You're never, ever going in for that job," for that job. And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That director, that casting person, everybody behind that is also casting 9 other things or directing 10 other things." He's like, and if you try to go in there trying to decipher what they want, you're never going to do it. And then you're also not going to be authentically yourself. So you won't be able to share who you are. Yeah. And that's a brilliant freaking point. And so from that moment on, my next audition was the national tour of Urinetown, and I booked it. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Not that I don't know if this was the reason, of course, there are many other reasons for it, but this is an interesting perception I had. And then the next audition I had after that was the Little Women National Tour. And I booked that. And I'm like, holy crap. And that changed my life. So before that, I tried to be the smartest guy in the room, thinking, okay, here's the character, here's what they want. And I don't know what they want. They came from Kentucky or Guam. I'm making it up, right? And their life experiences up to that perfect point have made their decisions as such where they know what their Javert is. And I come from Virginia, and my Javert might be different, but I have no idea what their Guam Javert is or their Kentucky Javert is. So why don't I just go in and show them my authentic self? And it actually happened for me once. I lost a job, but I got a call from the director a few days later being like, you weren't right for this in my eyes, but I want you for this. And I was like, holy crap, this is how to do this. And also, I talk a lot in my school about seeking the joy of your own experience. It's not for them, it's for me. And that's not a horribly selfish thing to say. But when I walk in there, I want to experience joy. And if I'm worried or have fear or trying to figure out what they're trying to do, that doesn't give me joy. What gives me joy is performing. And I get 2.5 minutes where somebody plays the piano for free in the city where a lot of times pianists cost $50 to $100 an hour to play your stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to use this as a joyful experience. And then when I leave the room, I throw the sides away, I get a Dairy Queen, and I go about my day. But I just realized that it doesn't have anything to do with getting the job. And once I took that out of my mind, that the goal is not to get the job, the goal is to experience joy in the moment. That's when I started booking and booking and booking and booking. And my life changed completely.
Yes, I think you said it right there. The goal is not to get the job. The goal is to experience joy and be in the moment.
Correct. That's it.
That's so good. And I'm so glad that you're on this show because it's a huge reason why I started this podcast in the first place, is to have people like you who have been so successful and have been on all sides of the table. And you can share this kind of information with so many people that need to hear it, right? It's become such a great resource. And thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having the podcast, man. It gives me joy to bring this to, I mean, I might start like tearing up, but I thought that performing would be the ultimate high. And it's not. It's seeing these kids come in with a preconceived notion into our school of fear, of discernment, of judgment on themselves, or the theater teachers, or whoever the heck who taught them ethics. And that's perfectly fine. And then after a semester or two, they start saying, I'm seeking my joy. I'm going to cut my hair a certain way, or I'm going to seek my joy and dance in the street or do whatever. And that makes them more authentic people. So when we bring casting agents and directors to our school, they're like, why are your kids so good? I'm like, they're just happy people. And they're sharing that joy in the room. And to be honest, when I used to raise money for shows, a lot of times investors would say, I want to buy your joy, which I thought was really interesting. Like they would write me these large checks for Rock of Ages and other shows. And I'm like, they're like, you're so excited about this show. I want to experience that. And I think that's transcendent with people that come and see musicals. They see people on stage and they want to feel that because they have 9 to 9 jobs as an analyst at Goldman, like my friends do, working 120 hours a week. But they get to see pure and unadulterated joy on stage when they see performers. And they're like, I want to buy that just for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that my students are starting to embody that a lot more, which gives me happiness in this world.
Oh, fantastic. Love that. And
Thanks.
Let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Oh, wow. Oh, I have 2, but I'll make them quick, even though I've been on like 9 monologues so far. So my first one was when I was on that non-equity tour of the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber. I was lucky enough to be cast as like the Phantom. So I got to sing like the Phantom duet, the music of the night, and I opened and closed the show. And I remember the first night in Grand Forks, North Dakota, we were staying at the Westward Home Hotel. And I didn't understand what a non-equity tour versus an equity tour was. I didn't understand that I was getting paid a very little amount of money to sing these songs in front of 4,000 people in this massive theater. But I remember that first night when I was like 22 years old and I ripped open this music of the night thing. And at the end, I just felt this applause. And I was like, oh my God, I just got paid for the first time to do this. And it was like cocaine for me. I've never done cocaine. I've never done any illegal drug whatsoever. I'm just saying, I would imagine that what this high would be. And even though that non-union tour, we had 1 day off in a year. Every other day was either on the bus traveling. We never had a day off. And that was, we played from YMCAs to 5,000 seat houses on that tour. We went every morning. I was the guy who loaded the luggage for an extra $25 in 40-degree weather, 10-degree weather. and put it all on the bus at like 4 a.m, slept till noon, went to a mall, got into a Best Western at 4 o'clock, slept for an hour, came to the theater, did a sound check, and we did this every night. And I think I missed 6 shows in a year doing it that way, but I was never paid less and never loved something more, I didn't think. And that was when I realized it's not about the money. It's what my joy is when I get up on stage with these people and make this music. And the second one for me is when I got to luckily do the show with John Kander from Kander and Ebb. There was a Kander and Ebb festival down in DC, and they did Kiss the Spider Woman, The Visit, and a show called The Happy Time that he hasn't done since 1967. And he cast me as this Robert Goulet role. And in this little signature theater complex, Chita Rivera was doing The Visit with George Hearn, and then Hunter Foster Wilchase and Natasha Diaz was doing Kiss the Spider Woman. And John would just go from show to show to the leads and talk to them about what he perceived these characters would be. And I view that as like Michael Jordan trying to teach you how to shoot a jump shot. Right. So John Kander and I would spend hours and hours saying, okay, here's what I wanted Goulet to do, but what do you think this character should be? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so he and I sat there for 2 weeks figuring out the show, The Happy Time, together. And then he came to opening night and gave me a hug and said some really personally amazing things. And I sang for his birthday party a few times. Like, he's the nicest man in the world. But I thought, and again, not to be gauche, but I was paid almost the same amount of money there at the Signature Theater that I was on that non-equity tour 15 years prior. And that still is one of the greatest memories of my life. So while I've had some wonderfully financially awesome jobs on Broadway, I think the two most that changed my life were the ones that I didn't really get paid at all. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. Love both of those. And I want to piggyback on them real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
God, my favorite booked it moment. I got it. Well, I know I'm stalling and I apologize because we don't have time. Oddly enough, I would want to say one of the 3 Broadway shows, but oddly, each one of them dragged on. And then I knew it was going to happen because I heard it, but I didn't. Like, it's the booked it moment that I would love to do is one where you just get the call out of nowhere and say, you got the job. Can I say my favorite booked it moment is when I got called for the Yankees for the first time?
Of course you can.
I don't know if that, but okay, great. Like when you're in a Broadway show, there's a thing called the Broadway Softball League, and that's actually more important to a lot of my friends and I than the actual Broadway show. So we actually, Rock of Ages won 3 championships, and our owner of our theater at the time, before it was sold to the Signature Theater, Jeff Fick, was our first baseman. And so when we won these championships, he wanted us to put them on the set of Rock of Ages because he was so proud of this. And so I remember, we would play softball every summer. And so one summer, the Yankees sponsored the softball league, and they called me and said, hey, do you know anybody in your show who might want to sing the national anthem for the Yankees? And at the time I was basically religiously a Yankees fanatic. Like I lived and died New York Yankees baseball. And I was kind of looking at myself as a producer at that time. My now wife said, you could do it. And I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, you're a singer, dummy. And I was like, okay. So I sent in a tape. And then I went and did a sound check for them at Yankee Stadium, and I kind of cried, and I stole some grass and put it into a vial, and I stole some like dirt from where Derek Jeter stood on the shortstop, and I put it into a little vial. And they were like, this kid's kind of nuts, because they don't usually get people that love the Yankees as much as I do. And then they were like, listen, we're going to call you if the Yankees make it to a game 5, meaning they have to lose one game out of the series to make it. And I remember sitting in a sandwich shop on the Upper West Side on 52nd Street with my wife, and I got a call from a 212 number, and they're like, hey, this is the Yankees. We want you to come sing tomorrow night. And I just started, I'm actually like tearing up now. I started screaming my face off in the middle of this sandwich shop. And I started crying. And my wife, save your voice. I'm like, it's fine. It's going to be fine. And I got there and I'm shaking. And then I get down to Yankee Stadium and the Yankees are winning. And I get out there and everything just goes silent. And the announcer pronounces my name wrong. And he has for like 6 out of the 7 times, which I find odd. He's like, Michael Minarik. I'm like, I've been doing this for 9 years. And so I get out there and I just took a breath and I took a moment and I was like, this is the greatest moment of my professional career. And the Yankees have been like family to me. I've had some personal hardships as of late, and they send me flowers and they're like, you're part of our family now. And I I don't know, man. It's just the coolest thing in the world to get a phone call from the New York Yankees to say, hey, can you come down tomorrow night to sing? And you get on the subway in New York City to go to Yankee Stadium, and they give you a jacket, and you come out of the tunnel, and Yogi Berra was there one night, and Derek Jeter, and they compliment you, and you go on the field, and you sing into the night sky of New York City for the Yankees in the playoffs. It's the coolest thing I think I've done in my life. Other than get married, I know that she's around and she can hear me. So, but yeah, the Yankees to me. So I know it's not a Broadway booked it, but this came through being in a Broadway show because the Yankees were supporting the Broadway softball league. So that's that.
Yes, yes. I love that booked it story. That's so good.
Thank you.
And I want to take a moment now to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And hey, it's a weird time, right? We are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'm really psyched about it. I can't wait for Hugh Jackman to come on stage in Music Man and be like, hello, River City, and people losing their minds, because I think he'll want to be the first shows back, because I think Scott Rudin's an amazing producer, and he's going to be like all, levels forward. We're doing this. I'm excited. I think people, I don't want to say took for granted. I think a lot of times when things are taken away from people, they realize how much they loved it, even more than they did in the first place. And I think a lot of people have pivoted to see what's really important in their lives. And I think that when people do go back to theater and see theater again, they'll be like, wow, we just kind of took this for granted. This would always be here. So I'm excited for that. I think they're going to put a bigger, spotlight on the performers and what we do in this industry, which I'm excited about as well. I'm really excited about this new musical coming in. I have nothing to do with it, but I think I got to see a workshop of the Outsiders musical, and it's probably the best thing I've seen since Hamilton, or before that, maybe since the original cast of Urinetown, possibly. It is one of the greatest musicals I've ever seen, and I feel very privileged to see it. But what I'm doing right now is I'm actually producing musical theater inside the school. So what we do is we'll take a lot of the kids or other people who want to present new musicals, and we'll put them on our students. I know other colleges are doing this around the country, but like my friends who wrote Urinetown, Greg Cotis and Mark Holman, they brought in like their new zombie musical, and they workshopped it on our students. And I get to sit there as a producer, like helping it out. And then another musical came in that I got to direct the student reading of, and our students get to work on it. I think there'll come a time when I go back to performing, when the school is kind of very stable and I can teach an associate what I do. But right now, my joy is really sharing with this new crop of talented kids how to create roles, meeting people that I've met throughout my life, and then helping them get to where they want to be in this industry. So that's exciting for me. And I'm just so excited about the Outsiders musical. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's unbelievable. It's like Mumford & Sons music with musical theater. It's just awesome. You're going to lose your mind, man, when you see this thing. It's so cool. So
cannot wait.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited that people are still creating new things. That gives me a lot of joy. So I know this is about performers and stuff, but if I can say, as a performer and also producer and a business owner, I'm very excited about the new crop of kids coming up that are still ready to go and still training to be like, I'm ready for the fall. I'm ready for the late summer of 2021. Let's do this. That gives me hope.
Yeah, brilliant. Love all of that. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Oh, ignorance that a career even was possible, that you could actually even make a living out of this thing. I had no idea. So more education is needed for that, I think, that people can do this for a living.
Yes. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I think I'm going to reiterate again. You're never going in for the job, ever. You're going in for your own joy. That's it.
So good. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
It's so quick. I'm sorry. I guess not caring. That's a way to say it. Like, after you're done with your audition, you take your side, you throw them in the trash, you move on with your day. That's it. You don't sit there and analyze the whole thing over and over and over again, because you're never going to know the answer. So once you're done with it, you're done. You seek your joy and you move on with your day.
Yes. Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now.
Oh, I guess Spotify. I didn't have that when I was younger. So listening to singers that I want to emulate my voice off of, Pasquale or Anthony Warlow or some of these guys, and to listen. And then also to listen to some of these really random off-Broadway musicals that maybe nobody's ever heard of before and find songs that you just love to sing. I love Spotify for that.
Yeah, love it. Fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I kind of like where I got. I think I'd
Yeah.
keep it. I had a really, and I've had a really fun time. And I think because I don't want to say care that much. The ramifications of not getting the job didn't ever pull me down as much as, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say other people, but what I've heard where the no's get so difficult over and over again, the no's didn't matter to me because I was always joyful with what I did in the room. So whether they said yes or no didn't matter. Oh, and can I say one thing, excuse me, before the survival job to me was everything. Doing real estate and not being beholden to getting a job for financial reasons was changed the way I looked at it. So I was able to not worry about the no's because if it didn't work out, I would just keep doing my real estate job. And I loved that as well. So finding the right job, survival until you've hit it, I think helps with those no's.
Yeah, great insight. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Your friends are everything. This business is not built by the government, it's built by us. And I think that we need to keep remembering that it's only here because a bunch of people a long time ago decided to build it. And when you start out when you're young, I remember talking to a very successful musical supervisor now who does like, I won't say who it is. Anyway, so I remember asking when I was a kid, all of your friends run this industry now. And he was like, yeah, I guess that's true. I never thought of it that way. And I was like, because I'm 22 years old when I asked him this question, I was like, so a lot of my friends will be running this thing when I get older. He's like, yeah, I guess you're right. And I said, so I guess my friends and my network of people and the community that we've built together is all trying to do the same thing. So maybe let's all just be nicer to each other. And just because this guy got a job doesn't mean that I am lesser or worse than. It's that we as a community are keeping this wonderful art form moving. And again, the government's not going to do it and not some nonprofit's going to do it. We're the ones doing it. We're the ones making up casting directors, becoming producers, becoming investors, becoming directors and theater owners or whatever, and building schools. So I think as long as we realize that we're in a community of like-minded people, that'll help you grow whatever way you're supposed to grow in that joy of yourself. Whether that means that you keep acting or maybe you pivot to become a casting director or or myself a producer or a director. But again, you're going to keep running into the same people over and over again. And so why I love what I do is because basically I just work with my friends every day and my friends come in and cast or I hire my friends to cast Fat Camp, or I hire friends of mine to work on new musicals at my school, and they're my friends. So it's like we have a little treehouse with a secret knock, and we're all part of it, and it makes me really happy about that.
Oh, that's such great perspective that you and your network of friends, you're the ones building this industry and creating it. I love that perspective.
We all are, right? You are, I am. And so the more people we meet, the more symbiotic nature of the common goal that we're looking for. And I think we just need to remember that this all thing could burn down. But a family called the Niederlanders one day decided to build some theaters because they wanted to put up theater. That's incredible. The government didn't do it. Like the Schuberts, right? The Jew Jansons, like Daryl Roth decided, you know what? I think I want to get into the theater industry. Thank God these people did these things, right? Or one day, like the amazing Alex Timbers, who I got to work with on Fat Camp, was like, I want to go to Yale and become a director, and I'm going to help build these shows. Like, we're doing this. It's not some amorphous like energy that has to make this go on. You're building a podcast because you want to help people. Like, I'm building a school because I want to help kids. I think that we need to remember that we're all in this together, and it's a beautiful community of like-minded people.
Yeah, 100%. And to wrap up this baby, Michael, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
I mean, my school, you can go to the Institute for American Musical Theater on Instagram. I'm very proud of it. That's really what I'm working so hard on right now. And it makes me really glad just to see kids that maybe weren't able to afford these amazing schools. Like, we've had some kids drop out of PACE, CCM, and other schools to come to our school because they're like, A, I can't afford it, and B, I want to learn from people who are doing it. And it just gives me joy. And so my school, the Institute for American Musical Theater up in Washington Heights, Yeah, that's what I like to plug.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Michael just talked about into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with him and his school. And also be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in the entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Michael just dropped for you during this entire episode. So many really, truly actionable takeaways you can apply to your career right now. If you enjoy this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next guest. Michael, I am so excited and so pleased that we got connected. Thank you so much for being here and being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thanks so much for asking me. I had a great time.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you.